My name is Ludi, and today we're gonna do our top 10 most fun nations, or difficult, or even different from your regular start. Nothing says fun as well as the Hun. Haha, I made a Hungary joke. Hungary starts off in the central part of Europe in the Carpathian Basin and the Pannonian Basin for that matter, and they have a great amount of expansion opportunities that are reflected within its mission tree. If you follow the Hungarian mission tree, you can get claims and permanent claims on the entirety of the Balkan area, together with restoration of union CBs against Poland, as well as a restoration of union against the Bohemians, and even a restoration of union on the Austrians themselves. That is right, we are pulling a reverse card against Austria. This also means that you're going to get a ton of permanent modifiers through your mission tree, as well as temporary ones. The Hungarians start off with their own gold mine in Hont and can easily get the gold mine in Kosovo early on, and later down the line can get the Kib and the Intal gold mine, thus becoming the true Lannisters of Europe. Let's just hope they don't get any habits from the Austrian neighbors here though. Securing early on the Serbian and Bosnian entities together with Wallachia and expanding into the Balkan holdings of the Ottomans means that you can secure a ton of trade in the Pest trade node, but I do recommend that you eventually change it to either the Venetian or even the Constantinople trade nodes, as having your main trade node in Constantinople makes it a lot easier filtering in the trade from the Asian parts through Aleppo and Persia. So if you want the whole of Europe to be fearing the mighty Hun from Pannonia, then hop on over and play as Hungary. Up next is the last of the Ayyubids, Hisn Kaifa. Despite starting off as a one province miner wedged in between Akoyunlu, Karakoyunlu, and Bitlis, this one province miner can actually pack a punch. It even has its own special missions that gives it claims on the entirety of Al Jazeera, not the newspaper but the region here, and later on more claims on the Aleppo area as well as Kurdistan and Erzurum. The only Kurdish nation that starts as an independent nation at the very beginning, Hisn Kaifa is gonna be a masterful nation to play as. You will need to have some skills because this is not an easy nation, but with a few well-placed wars against Akoyunlu early on or Karakoyunlu based on your situation, you can massively boost up your country and expand quite easily within the region. Hisn Kaifa has some of the best missions available. You start off with plus 10 national tax modifier and minus 10 shock damage received, as well as plus 5 discipline after you fill up your Ayyubid ideas. You also get national manpower plus 15, morale of armies plus 10, cav combat ability plus 10%, core creation minus 15, and goods produced plus 10%. You also have the ability to restore the Timurid princess and become the Timurids yourself, or if you want you can form Persia or the Mughals, but you have to choose one of these two, as if you form Persia you cannot form the others, and vice versa. If you are a more experienced player and you want to have a super fun game, give Hisn Kaifa a try, as it will test your skills as a veteran player, but will reward you with the accomplishment of knowing that you've actually managed to restore the Ayyubid dynasty to its former glory. So go ahead and make Salahuddin proud. If you're looking for a super fun start, you should try out Ethiopia. If you've never played in Africa in general before, I recommend that you actually start as Ethiopia and then work your way down from there, seeing as Ethiopia is basically a land bridge between the Arabic and European countries and the actual proper African countries. Ethiopia starts off with a slightly different situation. You have some rebels that will enforce their demands if you let them, and their demands are to make you a Jewish country. You would be the only one in the world that would follow Judaism. So if you're looking for a unique game, you can let them enforce that, or if you don't want to, you can just crush the rebellion, as you are following the Coptic faith. If you've never seen a Coptic nation, don't know what the mechanics are about, basically it is a Christian faith that you can get some specific blessings for that will boost up all of your nation, as long as you meet the prerequisites, which are to control the holy sites and make sure that these cities follow the Coptic faith also. Ethiopia starts off with a 655 ruler that will help you so much in the early game, and you can even get rid of your heir and get another from a scripted event, a really great heir to follow after your amazing starting leader. Their ideas are quite decent as well, including land attrition minus 10%, core creation minus 10%, and infantry combat ability plus 10%, but that doesn't mean that we cannot simply switch on over and form another nation if that's what we want to. You also have at the very beginning one gold mine that belongs to your vassal Damot, and you can get the second gold mine from the neighboring Kaffa nation, which is also a Coptic faith nation, so it's going to be easy to integrate them within your lands. The early expansion for Ethiopia should be revolving around securing the south part of the Mamluk lands before before the Mamluks actually secure it, especially the city of Kasr Ibrim, which is a holy site for you. You want to make sure you get this city and you turn it to Coptic so that you get your second blessing. Another great expansion, of course, is going to be in towards the south of Africa, going over into Mutapa and Butua to get the gold mines from that area together with the other gold mine in Kilwa proper. If you start off as Ethiopia, you will be struggling a little bit getting your alliances early game, but don't worry about that. If you go and follow up the proper idea set that should include religious as one of your first idea sets, you'll be able to get a permanent CB on pretty much everybody in the world, as I don't think anyone else is going to turn to the Coptic faith, thus ensuring that you can have a lot of fun and a permanent casus belli on everybody around. Who needs friends when you can kill everyone, right? Am I right? From the lands of Bobs and Veganas, the nation of Bengal. Bengal starts off in a super crucial area of India, having early access both into the Indian parts with even a core on Orissa itself, and with claims that you can get on most of the northern part and parts of the central part of India. But aside from that, you can also expand into the Tibetan area, Burman area, with later expansion in pretty much all of Southeast Asia, and very quick early on access to the Malaccan trade area. The Bengali national ideas include national manpower plus 15, infantry combat ability plus 10%, and later on artillery damage from back row plus 15%. You also get trade efficiency plus 10, dev cost minus 10, idea cost minus 10, land leader shock plus 1, and goods produced modifier plus 10. The Bengali missions are super great and can give you a ton of permanent modifiers as well, and you can switch on over to the nation of Delhi after you've taken the right provinces, getting their missions. Trade wise, you can also pretty much stop all of the trade from Asia from going into the western parts. You can either stop it in the Bengal trade node, or you can stop it in the Gujarat and Lahore trade areas before going into Persia and eventually Europe and the Middle East. Being at the crossroads between Asia and the Middle East, Bengal is a crucial nation to have as an ally and a super fun nation to be playing as in single player. If you want to try out hordes, you definitely should try out the nation of Jiangsu. Jiangsu starts off in the Manchurian area and is one of the few Jurchen tribes still around at the start of the game. Despite being quite small at the very start, Jiangsu has some aces up its sleeve. First off, it is one of the few hordes that actually has embraced feudalism, which is more than I can say for pretty much any of the other hordes except Haixi. Jiangsu also has a super good mission tree that can even give it a lot of claims on the entirety of China and most of the Mongolian lands adjacent to Manchuria, as well as it can also form the nation of Manchuria. All you need to do is own the city of Jirin and 20 provinces that are Manchu or Jurchen culture. Considering that Manchu doesn't start off in the game, it's going to be Jurchen culture, which is going to be your own culture. Forming Manchu is going to give you cores, not claims, but cores on the entire Manchurian region, which means all of this is going to be your core from the start, meaning you can attack the Chinese as well as all of the other Siberian tribes to the north of Manchuria and get back your cores. It is actually insanely easy to form Manchuria quite early on, and after you've formed and unified Manchuria, you can quickly destroy the Japanese islands for a lot of extra income in the wars to come, as well as securing your eastern frontier just in case, especially if you're playing in a multiplayer. The Jurchen ideas start off with morale of armies plus 10% and national manpower plus 15, and you can eventually get land attrition minus 10%. You also can have possible banners plus 15%, manpower recovery plus 20, and land leader shock plus 1, but I actually recommend switching over to the Manchurian ideas, which are better. Speaking of banners, you also start with the ability to raise banners, and banners are a specific unit available to the Jurchens and later on to the Manchu tribes. They give you 5% discipline bonus, maintenance cost 50%, that means you don't pay 100% for these units but 50%, and they only use 25% manpower, meaning instead of losing 1,000 manpower, you lose 250 if you lose this entire unit. Do take note, however, that reinforcement speed has been reduced to minus 50%, meaning it's going to take a lot longer to reinforce these units if they've been destroyed in a battle. If you've never tried Jiangsu or you've never even heard of Jiangsu, give them a try, as Asia is going to be your oyster, ready for conquest before the 1600s even finishes. If you like playing as an underdog, you should try out the nation of Mewar. Mewar starts off as the only Hindu nation in the northwest of India that actually can fight off against the Sunni and Shia nations surrounding it, such as Gujarat, Delhi, Malwa, and so on. Despite it being isolated religiously, it does start off with a gold mine, in fact the only gold mine in the Indian subcontinent, and this gold mine can be exploited exploited massively for the early wars and early expansion. Mare also has its very own mission tree that can change its capital not once, not even twice, but 3 times. That is correct. You can get up to 20 plus development as well as 3 times your capital change and even an upgrade to the empire rank. There are plentiful of other great missions in that mission tree, and you also have some insanely good national ideas, which include infantry combat ability plus 10%, infantry cost minus 20% with monthly war exhaustion minus 0.03, as well as fire damage plus 10%, discipline plus 5, manpower plus 15%, and dev cost minus 10% for those sweet toll play builds. Being a Hindu nation means that you also can choose from the variety of Hindu deities to follow that will give you their own individual boosts, which will help you out certainly in the early game. And you also can unite the Rajputs, which is going to change you over to the nation of Rajputana, and later on can even unify Bharat, or as we like to call it, India. Playing in the Indian subcontinent is quite different from playing in other parts of the world, and you definitely should try it out, as it is one of the most fun games I personally ever had playing as the Mare nation. From the northern fjords of Europe comes the nation of Norway. Norway starts off as a junior member in a personal union under the Danes, but within the first few years of the game, if you know what you're doing, you can get an alliance with the Swedes and fight together against your overlord Denmark, killing them in the process if that's what you wish to. Playing as Norway is a special type of playing. You have 2 options. The first one obviously would be to take over Sweden and Denmark and just proclaim Norwegian superiority in the north of Europe. The second and a lot more interesting option would be to colonize the New World. That is made available through Norway's special ideas. They do start off with national sailor modifier plus 25% and ship durability plus 10, and can even get trade steering plus 20% later on. But what really shines about the Norwegians is the fact that they actually can recruit explorers and conquistadors without having to go for the exploration ideas. Not only that, but the same national idea also gives them colonial range plus 33%, and the very next idea gives them plus 1 colonists. That means that basically the very first 3 ideas of exploration you have in your own national idea set, so you don't even need to go for exploration. You could instead go for expansion to mix it up with the national ideas that you have, or if you really want to go for exploration for the super extra long range early on for colonizing, then you can do that as well. Do take note, you have other great ideas such as morale of navies plus 20%, ship cost minus 10, global trade power plus 10, and production efficiency plus 10, and towards the end you even get plus 2.5% discipline. The Norwegian ideas are really great and can make for some really fun games overall, Norway being the secretly best colonizer in Europe. One nation that you definitely can have a ton of fun is Brandenburg. Brandenburg starts off as an elector within the Holy Roman Empire, which is obviously the most unholiest, un-Romanist, and un-Empirist creature in the world, because I don't know what to even call this thing. Back at hand, Brandenburg actually has an event that can give it both of the provinces that belong to the Teutonic Order from the early game. If you're lucky, you can get it within the first year or so, which is going to unlock your first mission, namely Reclaim Neumark. That's going to give you permanent claims on both all of the lands of Volgast and Stettin. With those 2 parts in hand, you can get the Show of Strength that will give you permanent claims on the entirety of the northwest part of Germany. You will never have to worry about being cocked over by a major allying your neighbors. Aside from the multiple claims that you get from your insanely great and really fun mission tree, you also can form the nation of Prussia. And with the Prussians, you get your specific government reform and even get more missions as part of your mission tree, with the addition of a couple more missions towards the end of the mission tree. The Brandenburg ideas are decent, with infantry combat ability plus 10, morale of armies plus 10, and a few others more insignificant ideas. But once you switch on over to Prussia, the ideas that you'll get are gonna be insanely overpowered. Playing as Brandenburg is the best way of learning how to play within the HRE. The HRE is really hard to be expanding into because of the extra aggressive expansion, and because you really need to learn how to deal with the Emperor. And a nation the size of Brandenburg is not too big and not too small, which means you can have a lot of fun playing as Brandenburg and learn how to overall play within the HRE. One thing you should also know is that Brandenburg / Prussia has a ton of unique flavor events that will be popping off around this area and will be giving you a ton of extra flavor that you will likely not have expected. If you like anime, you're gonna like unifying Japan as Uesugi. Uesugi starts off as a 3-province minor within the Japanese islands in the Sengoku Jidai, the best Jidai around. Uesugi does not boast the best ideas, that is for sure, with nations such as Oda, Shimazu, and even Nanbu having way better ideas than Uesugi. But Uesugi does not have bad ideas also. It does have production efficiency plus 10, infantry combat ability, together with morale of armies plus 10% each, and even discipline plus 5, and idea cost minus 10%. So their own ideas are not bad, but they're not the best. However, it is a lot more fun and more enjoyable playing as Uesugi, as you can have an easy and super fun time unifying Japan within the first 25 years of the game. My own personal record is unifying Japan by 1469. That means that you can very early on consolidate and centralize the entirety of the Japanese islands much faster than you would otherwise be able to as Oda, Shimazu, or Nanbu for that matter. This is vital, as unifying Japan faster means that you can hold off invaders faster, especially in multiplayers. Manchu has an easy time destroying Japan if it hasn't unified yet, so unifying it early on is vital. But even for single players, following your specific Japanese mission tree here and unifying the Japanese islands early on means that you can attack your neighbors in the Manchu area, Chinese area, and establish yourself in the Malaccan trade areas before the 16th century. Starting your unification process as Uesugi also gives you some specific flavor events only available to Uesugi that will make the unification process even faster. You also start with a 444 leader, which is quite great, and if you focus your points on military, you can definitely get military tech 4 before anybody else, and even military tech 5, thus crushing any sort of opposition within the Japanese islands during the Sengoku Jidai. Be careful, however, as a lot of the times Ashikaga will try to make you commit seppuku if you get too strong, so in order to improve your chances of not getting seppuku'd, try to improve relations and get a royal marriage with Ashikaga. So for your next game, why don't you give Uesugi a try and go for that sweet Shinto world conquest? If you're a fan of pizza and restoring the Roman Empire to its former glory, then Naples is probably gonna be the nation for you. Naples starts off as a junior member under Aragon, but very early in the game you're gonna get your independence in 1.30, and you can take back your very vital cores from the Aragonese, together with pretty much all of the other islands that they have. Taking over all of these islands and having your independence means that you can quickly expand within the Balkan area and the Ottoman area, together with the North African and the Italian areas. Naples is crucially positioned in 3 different expansion zones. That means that you can take a few lands from the Catholics, and whilst you wait for your aggressive expansion to go down from there, you can attack the Muslims, and whilst you wait for that to go down, you can attack the Orthodox, and vice versa, attack the other Muslims in North Africa, and so on. That means that you can essentially be continuously at war without having to worry about a coalition actually triggering against you. This very important factor of Naples means that you are having the best of all worlds when it comes to expansion, and your position is vital as you can easily make the Genoese trade area the strongest area in the world by filtering the Asian trade from Alexandria together with the trade from Tunis and the Constantinople area all the way over into Genoa, with later on expansion filtering the colonial trade that passes through Sevilla and Bordeaux via Champagne into Genoa also. The Neapolitans also have quite great ideas that include trade efficiency plus 10 with national manpower plus 20% and goods produced plus 10, tech cost minus 5, dev cost minus 10 for that sweet toll play, and even morale of armies plus 10% for a slightly strong army. You can of course change your ideas after you form the 2 Sicilies, or even change to the Italian ideas once you form Italy. I highly recommend Naples for those of you that like to try a slightly more challenging but very fun nation.